What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Gears video. Today I'm going to be working on testing this new beta playlist. So let me just make sure I got everything going well. um so in the new beta tuning playlist, actually, you know what, let's go ahead and cut to talking about what's actually in this update. All right, everyone, so let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that we're going to see in this developer playlist that you guys are going to be experiencing. Just in case you didn't read these patch notes, we're going to go through them together, and I'll kind of explain to you guys what they mean. So um these are going to be available in that developer playlist, as well as, I believe, in custom lobbies if you want to kind of try them out for yourself. Um, First, they adjusted, we're talking about the Nasher. They've adjusted bullet magnetism to both hip fire and aiming down sight. So this means that the bullet magnetism, aka like how much your bullets kind of gravitate towards an opponent, it's been adjusted a little bit. So hip fire magnetism currently 100% strength from 0 to 4.5 meters, and then linear dropping to 0% at 8 meters. So in 3.5 meters of in-game, distance, it goes from 100% to 0, right? So if you're in this, like within 4.5 meters distance, you're going to get 100% strength of the bullet magnetism. They've changed that to where it drops from you get 100% at 0 meters to about 3.9, let's say, and then at 4 meters it drops to 75%, which means it drops by 25%, which means hip firing at that distance, the bullet magnetism is going to spread out a little bit, and then 0% at 6 meters, which means at longer range, hip firing the shotgun is going to be a little bit weaker, right? Because you're not going to have that bullet magnetism. When you're aiming down sight, however, currently 100% strength up to 4.5, and then linear dropping to 10. Now it's 50% strength up to 3.25, and then linearly dropping to 0% at 5 meters. So they've kind of brought in that distance a little bit for the aim down sight as well. You can see this is what it looked like before. When you're aiming, these little dots are your spread. And then when you're now in the game aiming down sight, the greens are the misses. So it's not bringing these shots over to the person, even though your reticle is here. It's you're missing, right? So and then here you can see a visual example of the hip fire. So this is before your spread's hitting. After the green, again, you can see kind of the trajectory of it missing, basically. They removed the randomness of certain shots. This is a really big thing for me. I've talked about this a lot, that Gears has a lot of randomness to the shots. So we'll go ahead and look through those. Your blind fires, they added these nice little GIFs for us. So you can see your blind fires were landing kind of all over the place. And now what happens is every blind fire landing in the exact same spot. So if you remember Gears 1, the sniper, you knew where it was gonna land, right? It landed the same spot every time. It made blind fires a skill technique and not a luck technique. They've added that again. You see that in the Nasher. So I'm very excited about that. Hip fire shots immediately fired after canceling the slide will not hit the same location every time. So this is when you kind of fake someone out, like you act like you're going to go for an up A or slide into a cover and back A. But before, there was this randomness. It wouldn't go where you were aiming the shot or where you thought it would go. Now you can see hitting the same spot every time. Much more viable move. Performing a back A hits the same spot every time. So again, that randomness, you can see it landing all over. Here, you can see it landing same spot every single time, nice and crisp. So back A's are going to feel really good. The adjusted Nasher spread. So, before it looked like this, where you had these kind of like two diamonds of 4, and then the we'll just call them the hands and feet. Now it's a little bit more condensed looking. These two like feet ones are brought up a lot more. So you've got like kind of like a stronger spread at the base. So like, for example, if you're aiming at the head, like in this part hit the head, you still get all of this to the body. So maybe the shoulders here. So it looks like a much more condensed spread, which might increase the amount of times you get chunks. We've all seen that 86 in 1 kind of thing. So this might help with that. Moving spread. Any movement action a player does, strafe, walk, bounce, or roadie run, will keep the spread at a consistent size, which is good to see. So moving made the spread size spread out, which added that sense of randomness if you were strafing and made strafing a less viable technique. Now it's condensed Same thing every time. Great. The flinch, thank God. So when you get shot by a shotgun while you have a shotgun out, you get flinch, and you still get flinched by a lot of other weapons as well. You can see how dramatic it is. This would cause your shots often to just hit nowhere near where you're aiming just because of unfortunate timing. Again, adding more randomness to the game. So this is the flinch afterwards. You can see in this little GIF, much more condensed, a little bit of a shake, but nothing dramatic like this where your whole shot's getting thrown off. Um, so really good change, really good update. They need to remove the flinch, in my opinion, altogether. I would like to see there be zero flinch. I don't think there's a purpose for it. I don't think the randomness helps anything in our game. So I would love to see it just completely cut out. We don't need the realism. It's not a realistic game. Just get rid of it. But that's me. Movement. So this is going to be the next big thing. And this is something that a lot of people need to take into consideration, where the movement speed changes are also going to require changes to the weapons, right? Because let's say you move slower in game, you can't bounce as fast, you can't run as fast, stuff like that. Well, that's going to make your rifles more powerful, right? Like the Retro Lancer, the Hammerburst, because it's going to be easier to hit people because the movement speed is slower, so they're moving slower on the screen, easier to track. It's going to cause those weapons to feel much stronger. So this is going to be a work in progress thing, but I think slowing it down and then nerfing those weapons a tiny bit is going to be the right direction to go. So the slide speed set to 600, same as the previous beta tuning. So you can see that this is a decrease. I mean, it's the same as what we had in the last beta playlist, but a much bigger decrease. And it still feels good. And then the speed boost lowered from 650, lasting 1.5 seconds, down to 600, lasting 1 second. So the speed boost when you up A or perform any of those kind of actions, that's been slowed down a lot. The intention is to keep the transition from roadie running to slip to cover and roadie run as smooth as possible without the feeling of seeing players quickly accelerating out of cover slip, or players feeling like they hit a wall if it was completely removed. So they basically added it so that, hitting covers and up-aying still feels good, but it doesn't feel like for example, if you're running out of spawn to a spot, you don't need to get every single up-A that you can in order to get there the fastest possible. And then here for the Lancer, they're talking about what we talked about by slowing down the game. It's going to be important to lower the damage output of the support weapons. So damage decrease from 55 to 50. So, 11% decrease, right? Sorry, not whatever it is. Math. I don't like math. But 5 damage per bullet. So that's pretty important. 12 shot downs is still a thing. There's a headshot multiplier, which is good. Damage drop off at close range has been removed. I like that. I don't think there should have been a damage drop off at close range. It doesn't make sense that a rifle does more damage at longer range and less damage at closer range. No weapon in the world ever works that way. Damage drop off at longer range has been adjusted to keep the 14 bullet down, so you can keep a 14 bullet down at long range. It's just you're shooting at long range. So here we can get a little bit of closer look at the graph. The removal of the damage drop off at closer ranges means players can now follow up already established Lancer damage confidently, knowing how much damage they will be dealing. So this is what it was before. This is after. This is the orange and the yellow are after. The white and the blue are before. So this is your baseline before. This is your baseline after. So it's a little bit nerfed, you can see, but it's a pretty consistent line all across until you get to a longer range. That 20 meter to 35 meter mark is where it starts going down in damage and then flattens out. So it does a little tiny 1 damage more at range, but stays consistent at close to medium range. And then obviously headshots way weaker, but again, that same consistency, which we like to see. Health regenerating while bouncing. They feel that the responsibility should fall on the shooter to stop their opponent. I agree with that. I think as long as the movement speed is slower, then it doesn't matter if people can regen while they're bouncing or moving, because they're not going to be moving crazy fast to the point where it's almost impossible to hit that final shot. So I like this. I'm fine with this as long as the movement speed stays in this kind of slower pace. Players do not lose bullet magnetism while canceling a slide. So this was the way to punish, kind of that crazy air canceling bouncing technique. Now you keep that bullet magnetism, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in a more competitive environment. I know a lot of the pros are probably going to be doing like wagers and tests and stuff like that on this new tuning since it's in custom games. So stay tuned to see how that feels. Personally, I'm fine with that. Again, if you're slowing down the movement speed, I don't think you need to punish also by taking away bullet magnetism. So I'm fine with that. They're going to explore the chunk range. Now, I know a lot of people have been asking, myself included, have been asking for the chunk range to be increased, but with all the changes going on, it makes sense to not also change the chunk range just because a lot of these changes with the bullet magnetism, with the density and the less randomness of the shotgun spreads, um, it makes sense to not change the chunk range right now because some of these might end up changing it enough to feel good. You know what I mean? Like because like the pellets might be hitting more consistently or more solidly center massed and causing those chunks. So I'm fine with that. Re-evaluate the amount of bullet magnetism given to precise weapons and versus. Don't fully know what that means. The melee balance definitely needs to happen. The melees are stupid. And then adjust the weapon swap speed. So weapon selection is more vital and punishable. I like where it's currently at. I even liked it when it felt a little bit faster, but we'll see what they have in store for that. Overall, these are your patch notes. Now let's go back into the game and test these and see how it feels. All right, so as you guys can see, there's a lot of cool, interesting changes to the update. And I think everybody in this game just wants to test the new tuning rather than actually play the game. Okay, so the slide, the movement feels weird. Like it doesn't feel, it's not as easy. I want to see where my blind fires are going here because they updated the blind fire. Oh, same spot every time. We're gonna 1v1. So it looks like the back A's are landing consistently in the same spot like they said, but slightly off center. So all right, so the other, so we got blind fires, back A's. What about up A's? Yeah, the up A's are going consistently where I'm aiming them. Oh, this feels good. Yeah, everything feels really good. All right, bro. I don't know what that guy was trying to do. Everything feels like it's going where it's supposed to. Like that randomness that's been plaguing this game is gone. And I'm a big proponent of RNG does not belong in esports. So seeing like my shots consistently go where they belong feels really, really good. I do kind of want to actually play though and just get a feel for the game overall in that regard. So I'm gonna start like actually playing the game and we'll see if we can get some like get used to this a little bit. Yeah, I'm really thinking that this is going to be a version of the game that's much more fun to play. I'd still like to see the strafe speed increase a little bit. All right, so like from pretty solid distances, you're gonna want to definitely L trigger. But this feels like right about this range. So it looks like about this line to this wall is going to be kind of that range where you definitely are going to start noticing the benefits of the L trigger. So anything past this line, distance wise, so you know that's a pretty easy judge of distance. If you start getting closer in this, so if I take like just like one step closer, let's see what that looks like. Still a little bit more condensed on the L trigger. Take another step forward. See, now they're about the same, maybe a little bit more condensed on the L trigger, but at this range, you're mostly blind firing. If I take it one more step forward, L trigger, blind fire, now you're starting to see them match up in a lot like denser things. And then obviously point blank. Once you get to point blank, it almost looks like the point blank is more condensed. The point blank blind fire is more condensed than the L trigger blind fire. So this is going to kind of give you that judge of range right here for the new like spreads. But you have to factor into that bullet magnetism. So the bullet magnetism, as we read in the patch notes, is going to be different. But yeah, kind of like maybe about this range. So we can even use this line right here, like this panel. This range is going to be that range where you start seeing the spread be more condensed by L triggering. So keep that in mind as you're in your fights. I don't know. I'm liking the movement. It feels slower. I wonder if they changed the Lancer. Let's see if they changed the Lancer spray patterns. Couldn't really tell